Hey folks, Steve here with another Empire of the Sun video. We're continuing our 1942 campaign playthrough, and we are reaching the middle of 1943, which is turn 6. Now, we've seen a lot of fighting going on, and like the Allies are starting to push back, but it is on a razor-thin margin as the political will track for the US right now is at 1, which means any failure, any significant event that would lead to some collapse will end the game in Japan's favor. But 1 is not 0, and 1 is enough to keep the fight going on. We have seen the Japanese Navy, all of its carrier forces, except for a couple of reserve carriers, light carriers, one Soryu, which is like the last main fleet carrier left, have all been slowly attrited away. While the U.S. Navy has similarly been attrited, their capability to get these things back in action is much greater, and we're going to start to see the Japanese position collapse. Now, we're very strong in Burma. We're pushing in northern India due to some mistakes, basically playing a couple of ops, either at least one ops card and erroneously having more than one battle hex. I've tried to correct that a little bit. It's kind of hard to fix, so we'll see how that plays out. Ultimately, I don't see Burma being like the ultimate, influencer of all things in this game. I do think we're going to start to see the Central and South Pacific advances really matter more than the CBI theater. But we'll see. There's a lot of game playing left to do here, guys. Because we never took Guadalcanal as Japan, the Allies have had a lot of advantages in the South Pacific. Rabaul is back under Allied control. Kwajalein is getting boxed out here, and very likely to be surrounded by ZOIs here very soon, which is going to be a big problem. And then, Truk, the Mariana Islands, Iwo Jima, we're going to be seeing that advance before too long, which is going to put the Allies in really great shape to be able to perform their bombing capabilities, all that good stuff. Just more to come, guys. There's just more. We'll see what is going to play out. You can see we've got some trapped U.S. Army Corps on the Dutch East Indies because we needed to keep progress of war up, so we captured a couple of low-hanging fruit. The Japanese response have locked those guys down in zones of influence, and it's pretty hard to get back in there without dedicating some carriers to kind of push out the air. We'll eventually get over there to do that. It's just we've got to loosen up and crack some of these other lines. Very soon, Vogelkop and Biak will likely be in Allied hands again, and so we're just going to continue to see the Allies, gain momentum, and the Japanese just need to keep them back as much as possible. We just narrowly missed progress of war last turn, which is not good. And the Japanese need to keep that dream alive that they can stop the Allies from progress of war. And I'd have to go look in the deck. Is there actually a Japanese card that will knock down U.S. political will? I'm not sure there is. It may only be that there are cards that raise political will, but we'll see what happens here, guys. So I'm going to do the turn 6 reinforcements and replacements and strategic warfare and the strategy cards, and we'll check in before doing the operations phase here then in just a second. All right, here we are. We've had our first instance of strategic warfare actually work against the Japanese, which means the Japanese now have 6 cards, despite their resources. And so they get a pass, which is convenient, but now the Allies are going to have an advantage, with the card play. And then, so we repaired some ships up here, and we brought in a huge amount of reinforcements in Rabaul. Light carrier, escort carrier, battleship. Well, this guy's been around, but a whole bunch of carriers we just got in. fresh off the shipyard docks, and we're gonna probably be ripping Japan a new butthole here very shortly with all of that because basically we can throw that fleet at any given hex that we desire and expect that we're gonna crush what's in front of us. So we're not out of the woods, right? We're in U.S. political will one, but with all this power behind us, guys, like this is going to be maybe the great. Maybe we're going to play all the way to turn 12 because I see the Allies just raffle stomping their way through the Central Pacific. They'll be pushing back into the Philippines, and there won't be much to stop them at that point. Like the Japanese may just be playing cards to get stuff in the way. So it remains to be seen exactly how this is going to work out. If I look at the India card, one, two, three, well, one, two, three, four, five. It would still take like 5 turns to make India surrender. And I think by then, I don't know. We'll see, guys. That's the whole point. The game is still interesting. I really thought that Japan was going to walk away with the game, and it's looking like it's not going to go that way, thanks to all mistakes across the board as everybody. So we'll get started here. The Allies will go first, then Japan will go, possibly passing. I think we want to pass early just to get it out of the way and let them have their 1-2 punch. So we'll talk through that as we go through the card play. I'll try to stick to the rounds, like here's a pair of card plays or a card play and a pass, and then just like we did in the previous video. And it could be that we get through turn 6 and 7 in this video. We'll see. Should also point out the Commonwealth got a naval replacement, which helped them top off their carrier. So things are going to just get rough, I think, as we go. The Allies did spend their ground replacements on defending Burma, or I should say northern India, just to make that a tougher fight, because we've got preponderance of force here that we should be able to just start collapsing the Japanese position with the existing units that we do have. So like Kwajalein probably first up, and then we're going to look at maybe directly attacking Truk to knock that HQ out. So we may have to go back to our Erasmus guys and find out, like, what do we do? We're getting our butt kicked now, guys. How do we hold on? Erasmus, help. But we'll go from there. So we'll see you in the next clip with probably going to be Allied card and a Japanese pass. Okay, here's where we're at. We had to play this card as the Allies, which was fine. We executed an operation on a budget with 2 carriers in this Marine division, and sure enough, we took Truk, which bounced the Japanese HQ. These guys are going to be pretty much left in the dust and bypass because we can't trace to them. So we don't even care about Kwajalein, really. We get some progress of war on our first card, which is great. And in fact, very likely we're going to be able to take some additional islands. In fact, we're going to really focus on the Central Pacific here, I think. We may want to jump over and smash this down, start to make a deeper penetration, start looking at getting into the Philippines would be ideal as a staging ground for more. So the Allies are feeling really good about that. Japanese played Western Force. This was largely an activation to just rearrange our air cover and our ZOIs. So now the Japanese defense perimeter is the sort of apple shape right here. That's it. That's what we got, man. And we just lost access to the Tenryu and Yamato getting cut out of activation range. So they're in deep trouble at this point. Funny how the game can turn on a dime like that, but so it goes. So that's the first 2 card plays. I'm going to hold the Japanese pass as deep into the turn as I can. I think they want to, hold out that something else can happen. There is a card that could come up that would give Japan the game. It's the Tokyo Rose card. I looked in Vassal. They're like, is there a card at all that could make a difference? Yes. The other thing is Tojo resigns. If it's played in 1944, can decrease U.S. will, and I have to watch out for either of those cards. If the Tojo card comes up before 1944, like over the next couple of card plays, this turn or next turn, then no big deal. It gets reshuffled into the deck until 1944. If it comes up, right, that at the wrong time, if Tokyo Rose comes up at the wrong time, allies lose the game. So like we have to figure out how to raise our political will. Hopefully some more allied cards come out that increase it. Otherwise, like we need to liberate some places, right? Like that's what we need to do. So we're going to try to do that. So that's the first round card play. We'll go into the next. All right, sorry guys, get the zoom right. Next card play. Use this on a big raid on Saipan, and we had really cleared up a lot of the Japanese air naval around it. But of course, the Japanese player got another War in Europe card, which makes me laugh because if I had been playing these consistently every time we got them for an event, like it's the opportunity cost, right? I didn't know that I would get this many War in Europe cards. I've gotten so many. Had I been playing them when they were most valuable, like we would actually be honestly probably in much better shape in terms of like forcing U.S. Reinforcements to get moved away, and it's just that's the opportunity cost, right? Kind of too late now, in my opinion. We've played most of the War in Europe cards out now, but using this activation, we've just done a lot of realignment, reinforcing both Iwo Jima and Saipan, putting air in the vicinity of the important locations we expect to be attacked in the nearer term, and just waiting to see, where the other shoes are going to drop as we go here. So Burma's quiet, but that's it for the second card round. Really focused around Saipan already. The Allies would love to get in there, right? The objective, as we're starting to get formulated here, is we would like to get into Saipan and then even progress against Iwo Jima, or kind of crack this line and start getting back into the Philippines. That would get us out of the danger zone more on the political will track. We're still at one. The wrong card that comes up at the wrong time is going to really hurt us. So we have to make a decision, right? Like focus on getting set up for the final turns of the game and be in a good position bombing the heck out of Japan, or also at the same time try to focus on tearing down the Philippines, and restoring basically uh, the political will around that. If we were to get the Philippines back up into a liberated state, that should push us out of the danger area for Tokyo Rose if it were to come up, or the Tojo resigns in 44 if it were to come up. We're not it's a timing thing, right? We're actually, for as great as the U.S. position is, they are actually still on a timer. So going to be dealing with that. These two cards done. We're going to go to the next round, rather. Okay, after the next card plays, Allies got put in a tough card position where they had to play something. They didn't want to get rid of their Operation Matador. They had an AB result. That's a good reaction card. So we played this for ops, and we did a budget crush on Kwajalein and took that. That just gave us good progress of war for a very cheap card, basically. So, like, we're on track to get our progress of war. The Japanese used the Tinian raid as a regular ops to push further into, northern India. They eliminated a British unit, but they also lost a step. And most of those Japanese units right now, like, don't have anybody outside the Imphal hex basically does not have proper supply tracing until I build the Imphal road, which is the only one that I can. And even once I do that, I'm going to need to be really careful. And honestly, if I'm going to take the last hex in northern India, Dhaka, it's going to have to be with some of my Marines here that are set up to do so. But that just starts a different ticker. It doesn't do us much. We remain in a defensive posture everywhere else. I do need to probably move the Korean army, but I don't know that I want to do that. I should also point out as we finish up with these cards and go into the next card play, that way, way, way back earlier in the game, we had the Tojo Resigns card, which I played as an ops. I didn't understand at the time, and just doing research on this game on forums since I started playing, realized that I could have played Tojo Resigns for the event and reduced political will by 2. And if we had done it back then, we'd have already won as Japan. So you could almost look at that and go, well, maybe we already won the game as Japan. Or we could have, and we probably should have, but we didn't. So we're going to keep playing. That's fine. I probably should have looked at this as a Japanese victory earlier, but now that the tides are shifting, I'm going to keep rolling. Whatever I did with that one ops card would not have been the same significance as 2 political will. Let's put it that way. Now, if we were to get Tojo Resigns up now, right, anytime soon, we'd play it. We'd, be essentially very likely to win the game. The exception would be if we played that card too late, or I'm sorry, too early, and reduced political will down to 0, and the Allies managed to do something that flipped political will back up before the end of the turn, then the Allies would survive. So it's important that for the Japanese, if they do get Tokyo Rose, if they do get Tojo Resigns, that they play that towards the end of the turn with the hope that the Allies can't do enough oomph to create a political will increase. That's also going to depend on, did they reconquer the Philippines? What else is going on? But there's that we're going to have to watch and keep in mind as we progress through the game, that those things could still come in. At this point, I think the Allies are going to be good to basically keep getting progress of war unless there's a big upset somewhere, because they have tons of ASPs that have been coming onto the board. They can afford to now pile on, and that potential that the game ends with Japanese victory is just feeling out of reach until other things change. Now, would there have been a reason not to play Tojo Resigns early? Yes. So had we played Tojo Resigns early, if we hadn't achieved outright victory too long after, it's possible that the Allies could have drawn the Soviets invade Manchuria card and maybe have been able to play that early. Now, I don't see how Tojo resigning, say, in 1941 or 1942 would have somehow allowed the Soviet Union to reverse course after Barbarossa and take Manchuria. I don't understand how that would be, but the game, that's sort of the reason why you don't play Tojo Resigns early if you get it as an event, because you open up that early loss, and that would lead to losing resource hexes in Manchuria, right? That would be a significant blow to the Japanese effort that early in the game. So there is a reason why we wouldn't have played Tojo Resigns as the event, and that is to avoid an early Soviet invasion of Manchuria. Ultimately, I probably should have played it. So, I don't know. You could look at this at my recognition that this really ought to have been a Japanese victory. So if the Allies win at the end, I'm going to call it a push. Guys, I'm just going to say, like, you know what? The Japanese probably should have won. They really did win, but we kept playing anyway, essentially, because I didn't understand the way that a card worked immediately. I didn't read it properly, which is my problem. That's a comprehension problem. I didn't look at it closely enough to realize what I could have done. So I think at this point, the Allies are just going to try to win, and we're going to say both sides played a really good game of Empire of the Sun, and both sides are me, so I'm a winner no matter what. All right, so we're done with these cards. We're going to play on. It's getting towards like the mid or later half of this turn, so Allies are going to be very critically minding, where are they going to go next. Need to start thinking about getting into the Philippines, need to clear the last of the Japanese naval forces on the map, ideally, and we'll go from there. Okay, here we are. We were forced into playing Operation Matador as a ops card as the Allies, which is not what I wanted, but, I think at some point you just have to accept what you got, and we went and took Bayak, which again gets us progress of war. We managed to actually get a critical hit, and we chose to remove the Japanese air unit entirely, so just treading away the Japanese air. That's kind of like their most precious resource. The Navy, I'm not as worried about, though we did hurt some non-replaceable naval units. So, all in all, a really good, basic result. We still need to be looking at taking Saipan over the next several turns, but we're kind of shaping things up to be able to do that. So I feel okay with that result. Japanese ended up having to play this card, which is not ideal. We went on an offensive for sacrificing some land-based air of Japan. We managed to take Dhaka in force. Basically, like there are no Commonwealth units really on the map very good, and that we have not built the infall transport route, but I believe if I counted one, two, three, four, these guys were in supply. We took some attrition, but we marched into Dhaka. Now, it's not exactly in supply or in good shape right now because we do need to build the infall route, and we're covered by this air here, so this port's not exactly in great shape either. But for the moment, it's enough. I mean, we lost a lot of Japanese soldiers doing it, but we've taken northern India. So this will help to knock down the India track when we get to the end of the turn. I've not seen any India cards in the Japanese deck yet. I know they're in there, but cards like Gandhi and stuff will affect the India track. So we're kind of like, if we can hold it, which I'm not sure we'll be able to, like we could see India start to drop, drop, and drop. We could also be entertaining the idea of uh, Chinese offensives. I'm just not really in any shape to make use of it. Now, we'd still have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shifts left, which would be pretty hard. I think we've not seen very many Japanese China offensive cards come out, so if they were to come out, we'd be incentivized maybe to play them, and then obviously take a 3 card and use it for an actual Chinese offensive. But I feel like I'm probably, yeah, what, 60% chance right now of uh, or I'd have to double. We haven't done a Chinese offensive yet at all this game, guys, because we just never had a good opportunity for it. Now it's interesting, but there's also a limit to how many we can do. I think we can do one every other turn. So, like, we should have probably been trying to do them more than we've been, and then we'd be in a much better position to, like, make use of our success in the CBI theater. So a missed opportunity. A lot of this game is about like what are the cards telling you to do. Now, if we had gotten a lot more India cards, I maybe would have been even more about pursuing that path, but I didn't really get any, so I focused on trying to achieve supremacy in the Pacific, which was working. Again, we're at one political will, we're at the edge. So I don't know. We'll go to the next card set, guys. We're coming in. Okay, we had I got I had gotten a little mixed up, guys, because I had like I accidentally did something wrong with the order of operations, and I had to replay this card basically. We tried to sneak into Ulithi. The Japanese did succeed at special reaction, and then played Battle of Kolombangara. This card we've been sitting on forever, and managed to rebuff the invasion. We did damage an American carrier, but the Soryu took a step that maybe this wasn't worth it. The whole thing about this was, yeah, of course that's going to give them their progress of war that they need. Not that there's are not other options, but then projecting an American ZOI in here means that we can pick on these hexes to finish progress. Well, overall, just have this as a big basing opportunity to hit the Philippines and to hit Saipan. So, like, this is a beautiful chain of islands right here to be able to base out of and project ZOIs over these areas and cause problems. Unfortunately, I guess maybe it is worth a carrier step. We rebuffed that. Now, unfortunately, that used up a card play of the Japanese, and we're being forced to pass. This is not good because the Americans still have some card plays, and we'll run through those. What I'll do is I'll play through the next couple of cards, and then just do the end of turn stuff. so we can get through the rest of the video. So I'll play through the end of turn 6. There's really just a couple of um, allied card plays to make, and then the end results. I don't know that the allies are going to be able to get into the Philippines. They should be able to get into at least one more location for progress of war, but that'll be probably all that they can manage to do in the given turn that they've got, or the rest of the turn that they've got. All right, here's how the rest of the cards all played out. Allies stuck with playing this card as an ops because they're trying to hold on to this reaction card, right? Like, this is a really good reaction card. And is kind of the one that we would use to eliminate, basically to eliminate any of the remnants of the Japanese fleet, which still has not occurred. But we played this for ops. We tried again. This time, the Japanese, and amazingly, like, look at this ops value, intelligence. We rolled a 1, and, well, we special reactioned. We rolled a 1 for special reaction, and then we rolled a 2, -2, for the actual intelligence die roll. So we were able to react in defense of Ulithi, and we played kamikaze attack. That ultimately led to the sinking of the Cowpens and the Essex. We did take a step off of our air unit for that, but so it goes, because we were within 11 hexes of Tokyo, I believe, right? Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, yeah. Yep. Then the Japanese used this card. We're seeing the Colonel Suji card again, Unit 82. We used it as an ops and really just rearranged some units to defend the Philippines, and that's kind of all we could do for the moment. Some forward defense, and then the last card is this Chanel card. We didn't use it for the event. We used it for ops. We had a limit. We had rolled the less than E, or E less than. We only had one card face up, so we flipped the D card, and it was this one, which I would much prefer to use rather than that Rochefort reaction card. And this time, rather than bang our head into Ulithi anymore and lose any more naval steps, we actually activated Anzac, and we got into Volkel, which is outside the ZOI. It was sort of the low-hanging fruit. I don't know why I didn't do that sooner. I probably should have. I wasn't doing much with these Anzac units now in Leh and Port Moresby, so, like, why not, move that step up? That gives us some greater capability to start to push into the Dutch East Indies and southern Philippine direction. So it was a fine move, one that was low risk. The big grab about the Ulithi would be that it would have enabled us to more directly try to crack Saipan. Now, the Japanese player now is like really fortifying Iwo Jima and Saipan, with the idea that, like, the game's going to tilt on that. We do need to start looking at the Philippines as an alternative path to get up that direction. So, and obviously just to knock down the Dutch East Indies. That did get us the last progress of war we needed. So as we're ending the turn, I'm not actually done the national status segment, but just to show, like, the rest of the cards, right? We had a reaction that allowed for the drawing of a card, which enabled us to keep, to be able to play a card at the end. But because of us using a other reaction, the last card play was indeed the Americans. So it's a bit of an advantage here. Had I not needed to get progress of war, I would have looked at relocating our HQ in Oahu, because it's time to bring that forward to either Kwajalein or Truk or someplace, because then that's going to allow us to expand our activation coverage all the way over basically the rest of the map that we're going to care about in the near term, all the way up to Japan. But we couldn't do that. Again, the dice will give you curveballs, and the fact that the Japanese were able to get a good reaction to cover this island against a one ops card, for intelligence, which is so funny, is, unexpected results. I will point out that the Japanese Navy is basically the the Nachi cruiser in the Philippines, currently based out of Leyte, or what is this? Samar. Yeah, Samar. Sorry, guys, getting the camera all messed up. And then we've got like the core fleet, the remnant of the core fleet, which is uh, the Soryu, the Hiei, the Congo, the Takao, operating out of Saipan. At this point, I should probably pull them back. Hard to say, but probably I can't do Iwo Jima because that's just an air base. But I should probably operate them out of here and then be able to react around. If something goes really wrong, we could find ourselves in trouble there. But it's a fine position against all the bad options we have right now. Dutch East Indies has basically little to no naval support. It's all air power based at this point. If we continue to puncture the air coverage lines, like the DEI will be very easy to grab. Like I believe the way that this would work is if we knock this air unit loose as the Allies, and we can trace to these guys, and then they go and invade. Uh, if you look at the map, guys, like I left the DEI really undermanned at this point. Like it won't take much if we can get some proper support from the Allies going this direction. Would not take much to actually take some of the critical hexes that would cause the DEI to flip, and then the Japanese would lose control of pretty much everything in the DEI. We would get, at least I think that's how it works, and then they would get, we'd get political will and all that good. So it's like it's shaping up. We just need to keep pounding the way that we're pounding, and start to move more and more of our forces up within the ranges that we need. So I'm going to go take care of the national will segment really quick just to cover that, and then we'll get into the next turn. Okay, so did the national will segment, guys. Just there's a shift left for the India box. Here's the other thing. I may have screwed this up, guys, and I don't think it's a screw up so much as like I didn't have to do things that I tried to do. The Americans now control. Oh, well, you don't get any, Britain. Sorry, Britain. You're not cool enough yet. There we go. Do. All of these, because we controlled Kwajalein and Ainwatak, become Allied controlled, which also, for what it matters, would have totally taken care of our progress of war. So I didn't even have to take Ulithi or Vogelkop. Now, I should have realized that once I took Kwajalein early in the turn. I could have just hung back and kind of waited for the Japanese to do something. But it's kind of good we didn't give them an opportunity to like take something back. We kept up the offensive. And in either case, it's important for us to be making progress in general because, right, we took a resource hex. Like that's less card draw for the Japanese. If we would have gotten into Ulithi, that would have been really good. Still would have been good no matter what. So there's that, guys. It was an opportunity that we tried, we didn't get. All right, so that was it for turn 6, guys. We are now halfway through the game, or technically maybe more than halfway through the game, as we're moving here. Definitely going to be a challenge. It's going to be a bit of a challenge all around as we get going here for the Japanese. Like, they're kind of out of options. They can do a couple of things to make their lives a bit easier, but they may simply get pushed back. If we decided to try... There's a potential here. We've got a British Navy that, ideally we knock the Japanese back out of Dhaka and get northern India under control. But we could also start to look at, naval landings elsewhere to cause trouble. If only we could reintroduce some units with amphibious capability over there. Just looking out everywhere else, like there's progress to be made as the Allies, but we got to bring some units up. We've got to kind of refangle a lot of what's on the board. We may simply want to take these guys off map and reinforce them further afield. A lot of positional stuff we need to work out. Should aim to ship this guy up somewhere or he could be of more value. Figure out where we're going to send the Anzac HQ. Like, there's still a lot to do, guys. There's still plenty more to unpack here. But we're going to go into turn 7. The Japanese are going to get their South Seas HQ back, but there's really nowhere to put it that's going to be especially useful. Might be good to have some redundancy in activations, so we might want to drop that HQ into Manila so that we have combined fleet kind of activating over here. Has some additional coverage here with the South HQ tracing down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I mean it. Most places that the Japanese need to be able to operate in, they're going to have activations, but we'll make it so we've got some redundancy. That's about the best we can hope for at this point. So yeah, I'm going to go do the reinforcement phase of turn 7, and we'll go from there. So going into September to December of 1943, the Allies are still at one political will. I've not seen any other place that, capturing the Marshall Islands does not increase political will, as far as I can tell. So really, like double checking here, like I'm not missing anything, am I? The Allies need to get out of this, right? Like they need to get to a higher political will state. The Japanese can't afford to try to get into the Alaska hexes either at this point. Like they just don't have enough units. Strategic warfare could get us something, but we need bombing. Yeah, there's no other way to increase our morale but to make progress at this point. So we continue to be on the knife's edge here, guys. The strategic bombers that will come in a couple of turns will actually give us some hope, but we still need to break the Saipan barrier here. We need to break into the Philippines. We need to get back into the Dutch East Indies. Need to somehow get out of Burma, or get Burma back under control. So we've got plenty of power, but look at this attrition. Look at this attrition happening to the U.S. Navy. Like, just, we still got plenty of stuff to work with. We're going to get some additional naval reinforcements, so we're going to get more replacements. But you don't, for as much strength as you have, you still have to diligently make that progress. And we're going to end up having probably some big card play events to break into the Philippines. Or at least, I think what I'm going to have to do is break this barrier here, base out of Palau Island, and then that gives us a much shorter hop. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops. Oh, man. Just messed that up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we could get into... We might have to take Morotai as well before we get too excited. But going from Palau would enable us to get into some Our Lady, and then from there, we can liberate the rest of the Philippines. So I'm going to have to pick something there that's going to give us some good progress, but all that's fine. All right, I got to stop yakking. Reinforcement phase of turn 7, that's what we'll do next. Okay, reinforcements done. The Japanese have been reduced because they lost a resource to a default of 6 cards. Strategic warfare has brought them down to 5. So, 2 passes. The Americans have 7 cards. They've gotten a whole bunch of carrier reinforcements, and so we now have 3 different fleet groups here. We've got this set here at Biak that now has some better air cover from the Australians. We have a fleet at Truk that has quite a bit of goodness in it. We've got this set at Rabaul. They could use some repairs, but we're making sure we got some coverage there. Maybe that's a reserve fleet. And then we did put a unit, a naval reinforcement with this unit at Kwajalein because we need him to... We need some transport cover in case we want to do an amphibious invasion of Saipan with that unit. Or something. I don't know. I'm trying to make sure that my marine units, or any units that could conceivably do an amphibious invasion, have a naval unit with them, given that is a requirement if you're going to hit a hex that has a naval unit with it, right? That's kind of the thing you got to keep in mind. We unfortunately there wasn't much to do with our air replacements, and in fact, we kind of have an overage. We're actually wasting a lot of air steps. Some of this is because I'm not using my air as much, but I'm having to do these big leaps in order to, with my carriers and naval stuff to make a dent in a place. So I will need to think about as we start heading into territory that has better basing, like I do want to start sending my air into this area so that they can actually reach and hit some locations of importance. Now, the Japanese didn't have much. Their replacements have basically gone into fortifying Saipan, Iwo Jima, the Philippines. Our brittle overextension in Burma is probably going to get walloped because, as the Allies, I put both of my ground replacements into putting a British army back into force. That army probably has the ability to run roughshod over the weakened steppes in northern India and Burma. And so I definitely see that one, our progress of war could all be handled in Burma. And in fact, we could liberate Burma, which could give us the ability to get out of the danger zone for a loss. So a lot of goodness there, guys. Like I feel like the Burma thing was cool, but I overdid it maybe, and just against the wave of progress, like the Allies are going to be able to push back, liberate Burma, get a political will back, and then basically run roughshod over Malaya, Singapore, and then just start jumping all over the Dutch East Indies. So things are looking grim, from that perspective. There's still these 6 whole turns to play through. I don't know how Japan will survive other than hoping that one of those political will card comes up like this turn and something else doesn't snap. And I don't see that happening. So it's going to continue to get to like very likely an Allied victory. It's not totally certain yet. There's a lot that we need to figure out first. There's a lot of resource hexes that need to be taken over the course of these several turns to matter. But, and I will say I got it wrong. Like we do actually need to take each and every resource hex to liberate the Dutch East Indies. So that, it's all doable because it's empty. It's just that's going to cost activations and it's going to cost cards. And we're going to have to think through what we want to do with that. Now, the Allies are first up with their 7 cards. We still have a future offensive. I've been leaving that alone. We'll use that later. But there's some unknown cards that the Allies are going to hope to make use of here. Hopefully some big offensives would be nice. Because eventually the Japanese are just going to run out of stuff to react with. Like right now, there's barely any air cover. And what air cover there is a single step that's really there to protect the HQ there in Indochina. I am wondering now, like if I were to check Erasmus wants me to counterattack in Burma. I do think that's probably a good idea. Like we should aim to do that and just start to knock everything loose. There's not much that the Japanese can do to counterattack. Like any counterattack they could conceivably launch is going to be covered by this reaction card or any other natural reaction capability that could happen, and there's just not much for the Japanese to do. So I do feel maybe if I had played more cautiously early on, this is a lesson learned in terms of strategy. If I had played more carefully early on, I'd have a lot more force to work with that I could counterattack. I could mess up kind of what is going on the map and do well from that perspective. Because I've kind of burned up all my units going hog wild, and again, I probably should have won already as the Japanese if I had just paid attention to the cards a little bit better. And like, I'm a gracious opponent. I would allow for that. The Japanese have already kind of gotten a victory of sorts. So I don't feel too bad, right? That's the lesson we're learning here. You could go really hard and go and be willing to take big gambles and losses, and you can win early as Japan. Functionally, I have already done that. Technically, functionally, I've already won, and I'm going to pretend. If I pretended like I knew the Tojo card properly, I would have just played it and we would have won already. Given that isn't what happened, and I decided to play it for an ops for funsies, we're going to continue playing to what is probably going to be an Allied victory. But that's the rub, right? Play aggressively, you could win early. If you play aggressively and fail, it's very likely you're going to lose later in the game because you're going to have a lot less to work with. I can't really go on counteroffensives. At most, what I can do is try to keep rearranging my units to be the best that I can hope them to be. And I can't afford to peel much away at this point because, again, very easy for the Allies to make a pivot and seize something. Like there's nothing really stopping us from, trying to activate this unit and like hopping somewhere, trying to get in someplace that doesn't have air coverage, like, you know, any of these locations. Like there's a lot of openings for the Allies here. Because I don't have enough ground steps, I burned a ton of ground steps all over the map. I didn't put enough air in the right places early. Now I have, but it's going to be tough going from here. And then, I've been pretty aggressive with my air or my naval units as well. So that's why right now Japan has basically two task forces that it can do anything with, and the Allies have three that each individually could probably defeat what's left of the Japanese at this point. So the die rolls are going to have a say. That's going to matter. Luck's going to have a vote in all of how this plays out. But the Japanese collapse is imminent. All right, I'm going to play through the first two cards, or I'll say the first round. I'm going to keep talking like rounds. I'm going to do the first round, and I'm going to need to make sure that I'm really good about keeping track of my card tracks, because I almost got messed up, I think, last turn, because I was being lackadaisical. So, all right, we'll do turn 7 here. All right, first card plays here. Allies played this for ops. Japanese used this for ops. Basically, first out of the gate, Allies knocked their way into Dhaka. They destroyed the Japanese army there and took no losses and are now advancing back into northern India. In response, we used fuel shortage for ops to reposition units, and we basically pulled out of Infall back to Rangoon. We shipped a unit from Rangoon to what is this hex? Kuantan, coverage over Singapore. Basically, we got to be careful. If they nab Singapore, that's one thing, but Malaya, we need to protect Malaya itself and the resource hex there. So prioritizing that, move the air units around so there's at least something there. And that's really just a repositioning card. I mean, there's nothing. You can see the Japanese are in this like this sort of like apple shape, circle shape. Like that's the perimeter, that's the center of everything. Hope for the best. I've got like no units on the map. I've totally screwed up as Japan. Like, I won, but really, the cost of that, as if we were playing on, is that I have truly made this untenable. This is going to actually make things go by very fast, because I think the Allies just need to apply pressure at this point, and everything's going to start to fall apart. They will grab things at their leisure, and then that could be it. But I don't know what else is going to come out of the deck, so we will see. Obviously, need to keep playing, for realsies here and see what happens. Next round up. All right, this next one's a bit of a anticlimactic card play. We played the Slim's Burma offensive for the event. We get this cool armored brigade unit, and then we are slowly taking back territory in northern India and starting to push back into Burma. This is going to complete our progress of war needs, so like we're good. It's just going to take some time to march through this territory and take stuff back. Given that it was a 2 card, we couldn't do a lot of movement, but we will be encroaching upon Rangoon before long. So not good for the Japanese, and really their 1 card play. This was an unfortunate E less than symbol die roll on the solitaire system. We had to use this or a big ops card. This is a very cool reaction card that can cause naval losses, but I'd rather use this than to spend Operation Mo right now. So we use this, activated some units in the home islands, just shuffling some things around. Really not useful. And in fact, I almost don't know what to do or what to play as Japan at this point, because there's really not much for us to do. Like, we are literally just on the defensive everywhere. It's just going to depend on how fast the Allies move at this point. So, next card play. Okay, so Allies got put in a tough spot. They played this one card for ops. That's not enough to really make a lot of headway in Burma, so we decided to go on a raid um, against this Japanese air unit, hoping to break this, so we would at least try to remove that unit and then be able to press here. Unfortunately for us, and maybe it would have been better to go up here, I don't know. We activated 3 naval units. We went here. Japanese managed to react, and they called upon these other supporting air units, and it was a wash. Both sides rolled relatively low, and basically post-battle movement, everyone went away at this point. So um, now what I could have maybe done is tried to, I don't know, maybe I should have tried to go into that port and post-battle movement. Maybe I should have done that. Would that have made a big difference? No, because yeah, I don't know. I want to break this barrier and then make headway, I think is what I want to do. So these guys went back. Japanese turn came up. They basically got to do a D or an E, and I forgot to put this card down. Not an operation that I can think of that I want to use, but we got a War in Europe card. We are going to play it for the event, which shifts us back into delay for the U.S. reinforcements. Not that there's much more, like, how, in the big scheme of things, does that make a huge difference? I don't know, but at least putting some delay slows down the Allies a little bit. Not the best usage of a 3 card, but again, there's not much for us to use at this point. It's really just being reactive, and if we activate anything, like, we may simply play a card not to play anything, right? Like functionally passing by just discarding a card or playing a card. So um, tough call there, guys. It's just tough to do. So all right, the Allies have 4 cards left. The Japanese have 2 cards with 2 passes. Progress of war is well taken care of at this point, so the Allies are just making their diligent progress where they can. We'll go from there. Okay, first card up, had to pick a 1 card, unfortunately, but that was just fine. We went on our raid again, and we managed to do reasonably well. We've cleared the air unit over, was that Amboina? Which does not quite release these units from ZOI coverage, but it does mean that we can make a move on Makassar. We'll need more than a 1-ops card, but we can actually look to destroy that air unit and basically finish opening this whole area up to proper invasion by the Allies. So we do have this naval base here that will be useful, like in here too. We just need to get rid of that air, and once we do, we'll be in really good shape. So nice move. For the Japanese, they're playing this as an event. Island fortifications. Rather than put this on the game turn track, I put this in the place that's going to matter most. So a reminder that the Japanese have a +1 on ground combats in 1 hex islands for the rest of the game. A good fortification card for the time, but that's it's a whole 3 card. But again, there's nothing for us to do but to fortify at this point. And it's more about how efficient the U.S. is going to be. Again, in a true opposed game or a more carefully played game, the Japanese would not be so impotent at this point. But this is my mistake, guys. So don't feel like the Japanese are always going to be in this state. I brought this on myself as the Japanese player. Again, we technically could have won or did win earlier in the game, I guess. Such a dumb thing with that. For me, I'm dumb. The game's not dumb. I'm dumb. So there you go. All right. Next round, we're getting down to the wire here. The Allies have 3 cards. The Japanese have 1 card left and 2 passes. Okay. Operation Toenails, used as an event, was a big rotation. So we moved air from here to here, air that was there, over to these parts, and then we did a raid that did indeed take out the air unit at Makassar. Unfortunately, the Japanese did not detect this, so this was a surprise attack. Though just by a hair. We rolled a 7. -2 is 5, still greater than 4. on the event card. So kind of a near run. I mean, if they had called upon help, it probably would have still been fine for the Allies ultimately, or like it would have been worth a shot. Um, but they got it, and so then in the return to her post battle movement, I should say, not return to base. These guys came into the controlled port and airport, and then the air units that were hanging around here pre-battle, then post-battle move into this location. So you can see now, like we had cracked the air coverage here, and then the Japanese used this card as an ops card and proceeded to pull this air unit from here, or was it here? From here to here, and we actually moved the ground unit out of Surabaya to Tarakan, just because, I mean, I would rather defend, if we're going to keep the DEI from being liberated, I'd rather do it closer to home and do it with better air, supporting air coverage than otherwise. That's kind of like the only option we've got, because in theory, this air unit could support that air unit. Everything else is looking really tenuous and not good, right? So that's it. So the Japanese are out of cards at this point. So the Allies are going to get to play a card. There'll be a pass for Japan, play a card, pass for Japan, and that's going to be it. But progress of war is good. Basically, Burma should get liberated soon. DEI, maybe not too far in the distant future. We do need to be thinking about how else to crack the Japanese defensive line, but we've got some time to play with. There is still a danger, guys, of Tokyo Rose coming out, and so this still being a U.S. victory. So you can think of this like, oh man, look, we're running roughshod all over the Japanese. The game's not over yet. Like, we are still on a timer. If the wrong card comes up at the wrong time, we're going to have trouble as the Allies. So we do need to be prioritizing. Like, now that we've kind of opened up the DEI, you figure, okay, we've got several different units that we could be shipping. So this guy grabs, and then one of these guys grabs over here, and like we can grab some of these empty hexes now. Like, the Japanese are evacuating the DEI at this point. They have no choice. There's nothing I can do to hold them. So the Japanese cards are going to drop even more, probably down to 4 cards very soon. This is just what we got to do. So I'll play the last 2 allied cards basically with the Japanese passes, and we'll show the results before well, what I'll do, I guess, I'll play through the rest of these allied cards, and then we'll do the national status and political will right after that, because I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot to change, or by the time we get there, we'll talk about the end result ultimately. Okay, the 2 cards used here. I really debated on using Heroic Repair for actual repairs, but the timer is ticking. I am feeling nervous about political will, so we use this for ops and this for ops, both to basically reclaim Burma. So if I did my movement right, and it is awfully funky, on the first operation, we came in and we were able to clear the Japanese air, and we moved from here to here and then here as a 3 ops, fought the ground combat. I guess I could have done allied shipping. I don't know. Either way, we did clear this for a step loss, and then we moved, we're basically just moving through, taking control of these areas. We don't have the transport routes built, so I'm kind of, it's really at the end of our ability to operate. But then on the second card, because we now had a new supply route coming through here, we've just moved basically to recapture. This unit took a step loss in that fight, but recapturing all the relevant hexes of Burma. Japan can't respond, right? They have no activation, so we're just liberating Burma, which in the national check, national status segment gives us a political will. So we're up to 2. So if Tokyo Rose comes up, we're safe. If Tojo Resigns comes up, we're not safe necessarily. So we still got some time, though. So obviously, Burma's a really great way for us to be making progress, at least to get out of the danger zone. We are now restoring supply to China, which is really good. And then I mean, there's just nothing stopping these guys from going, one, two, three, and moving towards Malaya. We can make consistent progress there. Probably going to put some more reinforcements there. It's all good. And then as you can just see, like everything else, it's really going to come down to some choices as we go into turn 8, because turn 8 starts to become the late game. So what do we have to do? Well, yeah, we would like to liberate Malaya. We do probably need to liberate the DEI. We also need to get into the Philippines. We also need to break Saipan and be looking at Iwo Jima as well, possibly, as we get towards the end. So there's still a lot of work to do, 5 turns to do it. We do need to pay attention to the strategic bombing requirement. So, as we're talking about that, should like bring this up because this is what's going to matter here. The allied player wins if during the game turn 12 and turn Japan has successfully strategically bombed on 4 consecutive turns. So we would need to be doing that starting turn 9. So we've basically got 2 turns to do that. Has 1 or 0 resource hexes. So the one that they're probably going to hold on to is the one in Korea. But we basically need the Soviet card to come up, or we need to do something. Like we've got to figure out some way to drive that down. I'm not sure how we're going to do that necessarily at this point. And a B-29 is in range of Tokyo, or Japan has surrendered, and that means we need to be eight hexes from Tokyo, because B-29 has a range of 8, I believe. So you want to look at this. Here's Tokyo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, if we take Guam, that's actually good enough, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Obviously, Saipan kind of matters because it's got the protective coverage over Guam. But that's going to be really the choice we need to take. Ulithi by itself won't be enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it won't be enough to get to Tokyo. So we've got to start making some real hay here as the Americans. Like, we've had a little bit of kind of like this extra playtime with the passes and the strategic bombing of submarine strategic attacks that lowered the Japanese card play. But even so, like, we've still got a lot to do, right? I mean, it's going to take a big ops event card, maybe, or at least it's going to take some activations to get, all of these resource hexes, and push into Malaya, and to get the resource hex there, and get into the Philippines to get the resource hex there, and get into Saipan, basically. So I do feel like what I should probably aim to do is prioritize Saipan so that, one, we're just in range with our B-29s, and then we can look at, the rest of the strategic bombing stuff, kind of being in like a decent range, a decent spot for that. And then everything else should be about depriving Japan of the rest of their holdings over here. So I think that's the priority I want to set. Whether or not the solitaire system gives us exactly that, I'm not sure. In terms of attrition, I don't think anyone's actually in trouble of attrition at this point. I did have the option to bring the 1 HQ in Oahu down, but I wanted to prioritize Burma because I don't feel comfortable waiting for Tokyo Rose to show up and like end the game for us. So we're going to traverse into 1944 with 2 political will, very likely high chances that we're going to get more, right? We just need to make some more war progress. We've consistently been able to make progress, and we'll just continue to do it, right? Like, we'll continue to make progress. I'm not in fear of losing the progress of war at this point, but we do need to make some critical advances in order to look at the rest of the game being a winnable condition. I think I'm going to have to pay attention to the U.S. Victory conditions because I might screw it up somewhere along the way. So yeah, we'll do that. Anyway, I think I'll call this video here, guys. Just, getting 2 turns out of it. That way, next video we will start 1944 in earnest. I think that makes sense for us. So we'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care. Keep gaming. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.